Welcome to Stitching Up Trouble, a podcast where a quilt retreat owner and a creative quilt designer cross paths and stitch up some trouble together. I am Mary, owner of Coosa Mountain Lodge.
And I'm Heidi Pridemore of the Whimsical Workshop. Hope you enjoy. Hey, Mary.
Hi, Heidi. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to be back with you.
Yes, I'm having so much fun doing these podcasts. I hope people are enjoying listening to them. But
yeah, I had somebody reach out to me the other day. They just listened to the most recent one, and she said that she loves listening to it because it's like having coffee with a friend.
Oh, nice. So, well, I have my iced tea. Do you have your coffee?
I have unsweet tea.
Unsweet. That's what I got. We're the tea girls.
There you go.
We're having tea together.
Yes, but that's what I'm going. That's what my vision of this is for. Is like including people in on our chats and having it seem like you're listening to friends talk. So,
and if you haven't listened to the first podcast, this entire podcast was Mary's idea. It's all her. I just show up.
You do all the technical stuff though, which I appreciate because I would not do any of it if it weren't for you.
Well, the pandemic was pretty horrible, but it did teach me to learn a lot of technology. So I did learn a lot through that. But all right, so what are you up to this week? What's on your agenda?
This week, I am going to be driving to Florida with a dear friend of mine to pick up her wonderful daughter from school. So I will.
That's why you said that.
It's not a lie. She is a dear friend, and her daughter is wonderful.
She is.
So I will be in the car a lot. I will be not in front of my sewing machine. So I am prepping a needle turn project that I bought when I was in Ireland.
Yeah. I saw the picture of that. It's beautiful.
It's a gorgeous quilt. Yeah. And I'm not very good at needle turn applique, but I really want to be. So this is like it was designed as a block of the month. The program's over, whatever. So she just sold it as a kit. So I can like prep just a couple of blocks to take along and work on as I go. So that's one thing. I am building the new retreat building, and there's a lot of stuff to buy for that.
So, I wish I was there to go shopping and spend your money.
Well, I can give you a list of the stuff that I need. Can you find me good deals on it?
It depends on the stuff.
So I need things like 32 sets of twin sheets.
Right.
Because I'm going to have 16 beds. I want to have at least one set to switch them out with. I need plates, dishes to eat on. I need towels. I need...
Put Stacy on the plates.
Bath mats and...
Put her on the plates. Have her thrift all the different dishes. It would be so fun.
That's a really good idea.
And she is like... My sister is Stacy. That is who she's driving to Florida with. She is the thrifter extraordinaire. You could have all different coffee mugs and silverware and plates, and everybody be like, which plate did I get for today? And it would cost pennies compared to buying new sets.
Oh, I love that.
I can't help you with the rest, but there's my idea for that one.
There you go. Perfect. So I'm working on...
And a real quick tip for your needle turn. You only get better if you practice, but I learned to suck on a toothpick. And then use the toothpick, grab the edge of the fabric and tuck it under stitch. Suck on the toothpick, grab the fabric. It works great. So try that in the car. Just don't choke on the toothpick because I'll feel bad. All right. So you got the retreat going. I keep interrupting you. Sorry.
Yep. That's all right. That's all right. And then I am implementing a new automated email system to communicate with my guests.
Nice.
So when you book a retreat, you'll get a confirmation automatically. You'll get, information periodically throughout. So I'm very excited to get that because I am not a very organized person when it comes to that. So I definitely need help with that, and I'm getting that going this
Yeah.
week. So
Yeah. And
those are my three
any of
things.
those tasks that you can get automated to capture the information and communicate, and that it takes a lot of the upfront to do it. I mean, I spent
Yeah.
a half a day trying to get my website so it pops up and asks for your email. It took me half a day, but now it's done. I don't have to worry about it. So,
Yep.
but yeah,
Yep.
that's really
Yep.
good. So busy week.
So those are my three. What are you working on?
This week I need to design and make a strawberry pillow for blank quilting for a blog post that will be going up in a couple weeks. And I haven't decided if the pillow is going to be a 3D strawberry or a flat strawberry or a picture of a strawberry. As it gets closer, it's getting simpler. And then I am doing a presentation and talk at H&H Americas, which is a wholesale trade show, in 2 weeks, which Mary and I will both be at. But that requires some Minky samples, so I still haven't made the cat bed out of Minky I need to make, and I have to make a quillo, which is a blanket that rolls up into a pillow. Didn't know what a quillo was till they asked me to make one. So those are the samples I got to make next week. And we have so much new inventory. My new line of fabric for my Limatiques is coming out, Splish Splash, and I got to get all that up on our website at the Whimsical Workshop. So that's my
Nice.
week next week or this week, whatever it
That's a pretty good one.
is. So,
That's a pretty good one. That is a pretty good one.
yeah, things are a little calmer than they have been in months
Well,
past. I'm
good.
embracing it. I'm actually sewing at night on my own things and
Oh,
just
nice. That's good.
because it'll get crazy. If Mary wasn't going to Florida with Stacy to pick up my niece, I would probably be flying to Georgia to go to Florida to pick up my niece. So I am extremely grateful that Mary is going along for the ride. So,
How grateful are you?
oh God, don't make eye contact. I'm very grateful. You can get paid
I,
later.
I'm just teasing. I would I would do anything for dear
Yeah,
Stacy.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so I'm happy to be able to be helpful. She's had a lot of challenges over the last year or so, and I'm glad I can be
And
helpful.
it takes a village to
Some of
raise
them
a
like
child. So
right,
even though Violet is no longer a child, but
right,
oh gosh.
exactly. So I'm glad I can finally help with
Well,
something.
and you should have fun
So
driving. It should be fun. You can,
I love to drive. I love
I'll be
being
your
on a road trip.
co-pilot, not your navigator. Your co-pilot. But I do not like to drive. Ugh. So,
Oh God, you're a terrible navigator.
um,
Copilot is good
well,
though. You can like open the
that's a whole nother
screen and
like offshoot.
yeah.
The women that were at the retreat with me last week, if they listen to this, are laughing their butts off because I was asked to navigate twice, even after telling them I'm a horrible navigator. And so we were talking about
No.
the navigation and why am I always the navigator? And so, yeah. So don't ask me to
Yeah.
navigate people. You'll never get there.
Mm,
So,
nope, it's bad.
on that note, what are we talking about this week?
So this week we are talking about who should you give quilts to? So, um, as quilters, we make a lot of
Mm-hmm.
quilts. We like to give them as gifts. We like our loved ones to have
Mm-hmm.
them. Um, but not all quilts are created equal, and not all recipients are created equal either. So, I have a few thoughts on who you should give quilts to and what kind of quilts you should give them. So,
And I've gone through these, and yeah, I have a few thoughts on those as well. I am coming at this with a little bit of a disadvantage because when I went from being a crazy loving quilter to quilting became my job, at that point I kind of drew the line in the sand and said I am no longer making quilts specifically for people. But we'll get into that a little more as we go through here because people still get quilts from
mhm.
me. I just don't specifically say I'm going to do this and make a quilt.
Right,
So
right.
all right. So number one.
So, some people that you give quilts to just do not understand them, don't appreciate them. My friends like to say they are not quilt worthy. Um,
Mhm.
if you give if you give a quilt to somebody, you're giving a gift of yourself, your time, your talents. You've put a lot of effort into it,
Money. You put
and
a
if
lot
you
of
don't
money
get a
into
thank,
it too.
yes,
Yeah.
if you don't get a thank you for it, obviously they're not worth giving a quilt to again.
Right.
Um, I made this gorgeous quilt for somebody's wedding, and he said, "Oh, thank you for the blanket." Not making them another quilt. I
Well,
don't
now
know.
we could do two things here at this point. You have a juncture. You could say he doesn't understand what this is, and you can explain it to him. But if you already know the person and know it's going to go right over their head, then they can go
Yeah,
into the not quilt worthy category.
yeah,
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 I agree.
yeah, yeah. Not quilt worthy. If they use it for a dog bed,
Unless it's designed for the
unless
dog.
you say, unless it's designed for the dog, yes. But if I've put hundreds of hours into a
Yeah.
quilt, like my dogs get up on the couch and
Mhm.
they're, with me and whatever. And if I'm snuggling on the couch, the dog's going to be on the
Mhm.
quilt. But I'm not snuggling on the couch with the intricate quilts. I'm snuggling on the couch with
The cat.
couch
Right.
quilts,
Right.
the casual
Yeah.
ones.
So that goes
So,
back around to what you're saying. We're all not all quilts are the same. So
exactly,
maybe that
exactly.
person is still quilt worthy, but more for like a quick panel quilt with a border, not a, wedding,
Yes,
double wedding
yes,
ring quilts. Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
I'm always going to have the benefit
I
of the doubt here.
well, yes. Um, but like if you make this beautiful intricate quilt and they throw it on the floor for the dog to sleep on,
Right. They don't
don't make them
understand
another.
the,
They don't
yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
Um, Another one that bothers people, friends of mine, we've talked about this, is when they don't use it at all.
Right. Right. And I have a
Oh,
couple.
it's too nice. I put it in the closet.
Yeah.
You never see it again. They never take it out. They never use it. Like,
And
I didn't go through all this effort for you to not
mhm.
use it.
Well, and that happened to
Um,
me because I made a beautiful, it was like strawberries in the field quilt. It was, when I first started quilting for my mother, I machine quilted it, which if you know me, that's like, and
that's
I did
huge.
motifs. I didn't like stipple. And I gave her that one. And then I gave my father a moose head quilt. And it was a big, huge queen size quilt, thinking they would switch them out on the bed, and they never were used while my mother was alive. They went into plastic bag into the cedar chest to never be. And
Right,
I think I ended up giving my mom another quilt that I just said was a sample, and she used it till it fell apart. But because I made that, it was too special to use. I never
right,
ever
right,
felt the desire to make her another one. And then when she
right,
passed, my dad was still with us, and I'm like, you better pull the moose out and you better use the moose. And he did. He did. He put it on the bed and he used
yeah,
it.
good.
And now I
Yeah,
have both of the quilts back because they were never used. And quilts shouldn't come back to you.
right.
So,
Yeah,
give them to people who
yeah,
will love them. I tell people you don't get a replacement until you use up the first one. So,
right. Yep, exactly, exactly. Um, and then you have some people, you give them a quilt and they're like, it doesn't really match my bedroom, so
oh,
you know, those are that's just downright rude. So
yeah.
not quilt worthy,
Yeah.
not quilt worthy at all. So, um, but like Heidi likes to give people the benefit of the doubt. So moving on to the next point, not all quilts fit every situation.
Hmm.
So if you have a friend who has 6 dogs and they love their dogs like they love their
Hmm.
children, make them a quilt for the dog.
Yeah.
Make them, do a simple pattern, sturdy fabric,
Rag
you know,
quilt. Rag quilts are awesome. Flannel quilts.
great quilt,
You know.
exactly. So, fit the quilt to the
Hmm.
situation. Don't give a super intricate quilt as a baby quilt
Hmm.
and expect them to use it
Right.
because babies make messes.
Hmm.
Those quilts have to be washed over and over
Yeah.
again, and if it's made with a bunch of little tiny pieces, it's not going to hold up.
Right.
So,
And it's not
and then
comfortable. I mean,
it's
think about
right.
the end user. You know,
Exactly.
every time there's a seam in a quilt, it can cause a little. Most people it doesn't bother, but like if you have a quilt with 100 seams in it and you give it to somebody who's going to use it as a blanket, as a cuddling
Mm-hmm.
quilt or a baby, not only
Right.
that, all of that can be coming apart in the wash if it's washed 100 times. So think about that. Um, you
Exactly.
know, the other thing is to think about thread. Think about the thread you're using on quilts. If you're giving quilts to kids, don't use invisible thread. That's my like only big thing about kids
Yeah.
quilts. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, think about the end user and how
Mhm.
it sounds like a really bad thing, but grade how little work can you do for them to appreciate the quilt? Are
Yeah.
they going to be really happy with a panel quilt because that panel artwork means something to them? That quilt could be
Right.
just as an amazing gift as if you spent hundreds of hours on a PC quilt that they may not like because or it's a traditional quilt and they're modern, or it's a
Right.
modern quilt and they're traditional. So, and if you know somebody
Right.
hates a color,
Exactly.
don't give them that color.
Right. I mean, yeah. You use your common sense a little bit. Um, so one type of quilt that I give is if I have a friend that's going through chemo,
Hmm.
I will make them a rag flannel quilt.
That's sweet.
Um, so it's very casual,
Hmm.
very washable,
Hmm.
very soft,
Hmm.
very warm. So they can bring it to their treatments with them. If they get cold, they can snuggle up with
Hmm.
it. If they get sick on it or something, it's very washable. So it's just, kind of fitting the
Right.
purpose to the style of quilt. I don't want to give somebody a fancy quilt
Hmm.
because they won't use it, because if they're not feeling good
Hmm.
and, they have a bad reaction to the chemo or whatever and
Hmm.
it gets messed up, they're not going to want to use it
Right.
and wash it a bunch. But a flannel rag quilt will get softer and
Not
cozier as you use it and wash it and whatever. So,
And a lot of those
that's
situations, especially if they're in the hospital or if they're in a chemo thing, th- some of those places require it be washed every week before it comes back because they need to keep
right.
the area clean. So, and the rag quilts, the more you wash them, the better they get. We gave
Yeah.
one to our cousins in California fairly or like when rag quilts first came out. So was that 15, 20 years
Mhm.
ago? And they have it on their couch and it is the gift that keeps giving because every time we go house sit for them or stay with them, I find that quilt and I cuddle under it. I'm like, I made it for you,
Yeah.
but I love it. That's
Yeah.
also a really good one if you know somebody has anxiety, because a lot of people with anxiety like a weighted or heavier blanket, and the rag quilts
Yeah.
can be really good for people with anxiety. And again, it can keep up to the washing and the use and so yeah.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Mm-mm.
So we mentioned this a little bit. Keep in mind how you want somebody to use it.
Mhm.
So if you want it like displayed on the guest room bed, let them know that and make the quilt accordingly. That's when you do your nice intricate piecing and your custom quilting and all of that. If you want them to snuggle up with it on the couch,
Mhm.
you know, bigger blocks, not as heavy quilting,
Soft material.
more
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Or some minky on the back of that or some flannel, you know, keep that kind of in mind as you're making the quilt. So,
And that's something to
um,
think about anytime you're making a gift that you envision or think they will want to display either on a bed or in their home. There's nothing wrong with involving them in it. If you are truly trying to make a gift for somebody, the best gift you can give them is to let them have a little bit of a say, not a huge say, but a little bit of say, maybe the colors, or maybe give them.
mhm,
I've had this happen too many times. I've seen people buying fabric for stuff where they said, I let them just pick whatever pattern. No, 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 no. Give them, people in general do not like that many choices. Give them three or four
right.
patterns that you feel comfortable making and you can afford, and let them choose from
Correct.
that, but let them be involved. If it's a throw quilt or a quilt they're going to cuddle and you just want to surprise them, then maybe it is a full surprise. But if you envision it, or they are like, oh, it's my wedding quilt, let them have a
Right.
say.
Yeah.
And it's still
Yes.
quite the surprise when they see the finished quilt. That's the beauty of quilting. You can think about it and dream about it and talk about it, but then when you see the finished thing, it's always amazing to see.
Yes.
So,
Yes. Yes. So,
um,
so
let's see. Oh, but that was the snuggly ones.
yeah.
And then the smaller
So
projects.
yeah. So if you want to make something for somebody and
Mhm.
give them a gift from your heart, but you're not quite sure if they're
Quilty.
quilt worthy or not, or if they'll really use it or whatever, think about smaller projects. Think about doing table runners or placemats or wall
Mhm.
hangings. Make them a
Mhm.
bag, something like that, that, is not the big
Are
investment
you going to make me a
of,
bag?
no,
Okay, go
no,
ahead.
I'm not. Sorry. I love you, but no, no bag for you.
I will know I have truly converted her when she makes me a bag.
Oh, yeah, that's never going to happen.
You will
Don't
eat
hold your
those
breath.
words someday.
So, yeah, just,
Yeah.
you don't always have to give a quilt. It doesn't always have to be a big
Mhm.
thing,
Yep.
but,
And a few
love
examples
comes in small packages
a
too.
few examples for smaller projects. Think about like I have a great aunt who lives in a living assisted living like community. She's independent living, but she's there. She doesn't have room for any more quilts, but she would love to have a little holiday one on her door every holiday. Or
Right.
if you know somebody in a small apartment, or they can't have a quilt, give them a table runner that they can put on their table. So small the bigger the project, doesn't your level of love is not measured by how big the project is, I guess. So also think about their environment. If you have people in wheelchairs, they love having a little lap quilt, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
small projects are
Yeah.
fun and easy and just as much a gift as a big
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
So
So my mom used to, when any of her grandkids were getting married, she would make them a table runner for every holiday,
oh, that's
and that would be their gift. So, you know,
I don't even
still a
have
lot of love,
that.
still a lot of thought into it, but not, you
Right.
know, a big quilt, but something that they can put out, change every month or whatever, and still have a piece of grandma there.
Right.
So, um, yeah, so those can be just as meaningful. So, um, so when you're giving a quilt, um, it's not a bad idea to, when you gift it, tell them the expectations.
Hmm.
So, I made this quilt for you to snuggle up with on the couch, or I thought this would look great in your guest bedroom, or, you know, hey, you love taking the kids on a picnic, use this
Hmm.
denim quilt that I made for your picnic blanket or
Right.
whatever. So also include washing instructions,
Hmm.
how to care for the
Yeah.
quilt. That's a good
And
one.
this came up at our camp because, again, I don't make gifts, but everybody there was working on a gift for something. And somebody brought up the question, and everybody kind of gave their opinion about washing it before you give it to them. And
Mhm.
I think that's an excellent idea to wash the quilt once before you give it to them, because if you haven't washed your material and that first time you wash it, it gets that lovely crinkly look. That
Yeah.
will cause anxiety and panic attacks in people who you give it to, especially if they're not quilters.
Correct.
So they, as a rule, I think in the end, out of 8 of us, I think 5 of us were like, yeah, I would wash it first. It also will let you know, like, if anything, in this day and age, we don't have to worry about it, but if anything's going to bleed, did you miss a
Hmm.
seam? Like, did you do an applique and you missed a seam, you missed an edge? That will pop. So it kind of helps you
Yeah.
troubleshoot what they will
Yeah.
see.
Yep.
And when they wash
Yep.
it, it will come
Absolutely.
out looking the same, so they won't think they broke the quilt.
Correct. Correct. I had somebody gift me a quilt, and she gave a little Ziploc with two color catchers in it
Mm.
and washing instructions.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciated that.
Mm-hmm.
And she does that
Yeah.
with every quilt that she gifts.
Right.
She gives a she gives away a lot of quilts.
So,
So
and a color catcher is a product from Shout. You buy a box. It's like they're like little fabric softener sheets you throw in the washer.
mhm,
They magically suck all any loose dye in the water to them before it gets on your clothes or your quilt. I highly recommend them for everything, but just for people listening, if you don't know what a color catcher is, that they're from Shout. You can buy them on Amazon, and they're great for laundry and for when you're washing fabric and quilts. So,
yes, yes.
oh yeah. So the next one, things happen.
Yeah, when you gift a quilt, you let people know, all right, if you spill red wine on it, or if the um the binding phrase
Mhm.
or whatever, let them know what you expect them to do with it.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, like Heidi had mentioned, you don't get the next one until you wear out the old one.
Right.
So let them know
Right.
this is to be used.
Mhm.
If it gets worn out, if things start to fray or fall apart, I'll replace it or I will fix
Right.
it or, you know.
Well, I gave a quilt to a friend right when I started, so 2000, and her son at the time was, well, he wasn't even here, but when he got here, he loved this quilt. It was from I can't remember, Quiltmaker's Gift. That was a book that came out, and I had a companion book, and I made her a quilt out of that. This boy loved that quilt, and he just went off to college. He's a junior now, but when he went off to college, all the binding had frayed off. He had worn the quilt to death. And in the end, she's like, "Could we rebind it? Can you rebind it?" He loves this quilt. And I'm like, "Well, we can rebind it," but then it was also starting to wear in other places. But
Mhm.
that's an offer. If you're still friends with the person and they've worn it out,
Right.
it's not hard to cut
Yeah.
off a binding and rebind it for somebody. If they're loving it that much,
Right.
let them know that there's a little support there if they love it too
Yeah.
much. So
Yeah. Yeah. Let them know that you won't be mad that they've worn it out. Like,
it should get worn out.
yeah,
Yeah.
that makes you feel
Yeah.
good that they've used
Yeah.
it that much. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I have one on my bed that the ladies who worked for me gave me. I love Doctor Who. It's a TARDIS quilt. And they gave it to
Oh,
me when I
awesome.
had my major back surgery in 2017. My mom died at the same
Mhm.
time. And they gave me this quilt, and it moved me to tears, which I know we're jumping ahead here. But it's wearing out because I wash it with the sheets every week. I can fix it, but I take that as a
Yeah.
testimony that I've loved this quilt enough that it's getting worn out. So
Correct.
it's a challenge. Can
Correct.
you wear it
Yes.
out? All right, and that segues us right into the next topic.
Yes. Um, I firmly believe that you should give quilters
Hmm.
quilts. Um, if anybody's going to appreciate a quilt that you've made for them, it's going to be a quilter.
Yeah.
They understand
Hmm.
what it takes to make a quilt, how much time and effort goes into it, how much money goes into it,
Hmm.
planning, prepping, all of that. So they understand it.
Yeah.
Um, so give quilters quilts. People assume that because I quilt, I have enough quilts.
Yeah.
That's not the case.
Oh yeah.
I love getting quilts
I
from
mean, I
people.
I just we know I just cleaned out my stash of quilts because I have so many samples, and I was happy to part with a lot of those. The quilts I love is the one on my bed. Mary gave me an exploding heart quilt. Well, I may have chorused her out of it. I'm not sure. But those are the quilts that I'm not going to get rid of. I have quilts that I've been, people have generally not given me quilts, and then I started whining about it. So in the last five,
Yeah,
6 years, I've started getting quilts from people. And
yeah,
those are the
yeah.
ones I cherish, not the ones I've made, but the ones someone else made for me.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. I've been very lucky to get quilts from a lot of people who are very dear to me.
mhm,
And yeah, I treasure them. And
yeah.
I'm, very excited to be able to display a lot of them at the lodge and at the retreat. And, you know, I don't have enough quilts.
Well,
Give me quilts.
you have the space for the quilts. So, um,
I do.
but yeah,
I do. But don't assume because somebody makes quilts that they'll make them for
right.
themselves because a lot of people don't.
And
So,
yeah, so like
um,
instead of giving them a fabric kit or, a bundle of fabric in a pattern, that's going to be one more. It every time you get a project, there is stress attached to it. Good stress, bad stress, but there is stress attached to it because now you have something you have to finish. So once in a while, just give them something finished that they don't have to touch or
Exactly.
do anything with.
Exactly.
So,
I'm laughing because the package that Stacy is sending you has a project for you in it.
but it's probably a fun project, right?
It is. I think it's
Okay.
fun. So anyway,
I like getting projects
um,
too. That's okay.
well,
Oh,
I did send you the project. I thought it was cute.
now I'm excited. I
So
got a surprise coming.
we do. Um, so to me, a quilt is like a hug from a friend.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, I've told this story other places, but my grandmother she quilted, she crocheted. She lived, she died 3 days before her 100th birthday.
Wow.
And she was a widow for over 50 years.
Mhm.
Um, and, I have a very large family, and she would always say, I'm not good for anything. I'm too old. I can't do this. I can't help with that. I blah, blah, blah. Um, all I can do is pray for you. And while I crocheted this Afghan or I made this quilt, I prayed for you.
Mhm.
And my prayers for you are wrapped up, are stitched into this quilt.
Oh, that's
So when she gifted it, she would wrap you in it, give you a hug, and say, anytime you need a hug,
yeah.
wrap up on this. This is a hug from me. So that's a little bit of what quilts mean to me. And so I just feel like, if somebody gives me a quilt, that's a hug from them. If I need some comfort or,
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah.
just connection or whatever, I can wrap up in one of those quilts and it's a hug from a friend. And that's, kind of what I send my quilts out into the world as like a hug from me. So your quilting friends are your friends. Give them quilts
Give them
because it's a hug
hugs.
from me.
And the thumbnail that's for this episode, um, when we exchanged quilts, I'll put the one picture I'll link under the video if you watch it on YouTube. But the other one is the quilt that I gave Mary, and it's a hug. But she told that story. I think there wasn't a dry eye in the room, and yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, give them hugs. They need those.
Yep.
And on that note, when I was going, I again don't make quilts for people specifically, but I do make quilts, and the quilts talk to me. The quilts will tell me who they're for. Like who we used to go to this Thai restaurant, and the lady who owned it, she was a small businesswoman. She was amazing. Her food was great. And I had a quilt that was called Jewels of India, and it was all like maroons with golds, and it matched the decor in her restaurant. Like I
Nice.
only knew her first name. I didn't really know her. I think she probably thought I was a weirdo, but I came in and I said, "This quilt told me it's yours." And so, you don't have to specifically make a quilt for somebody. You may have extra quilts, and if you think a quilt is telling you it should go somewhere, that's the thing. So I sent one to my
Mhm.
friend's mother, that I had met her years ago. I had met her son and I had met her, and my friend was just here, and I'm like, we lost her son. Her son passed away very young, in his 40s, but I knew her, and I sent her this quilt, and I put in the card, I'm not in Florida. I'm giving you a hug. And then
Mhm.
while I was at the retreat, she called me, and I didn't take the call. And I'm like, I'll call her sometime during the retreat. And I picked up the phone and I called her and I said, How are you? I haven't talked to you in years and years and years. How is today? She goes, Today was a rough day because it was his birthday. And she goes, And your
Oh,
quilt
wow.
is a hug for me. And so,
Yeah.
you never know the power of
Right.
giving and what that will do for somebody. But for her on that
Exactly.
day, it was giving her peace. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
listen to your quilts. They'll tell you where they need to go.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry for the tearjerker. Next. Let's move on.
Yes. So, I have heard from people, well, I don't want to give so and so a quilt because she's a much better quilter than I am and she'll judge me or whatever. That very, very rarely
And
happens.
then they shouldn't be your
Um,
friend if they're that judgy.
exactly. Exactly. So don't be afraid of the judgment. Um, just it's the spirit in which it's given.
Mhm.
Um, and a quilter will appreciate it because they know what goes into
And
it.
they know somebody,
So
I mean, even if it was the ugliest quilt in the world somebody gave me, I would be so touched that somebody thought of me enough to make me a quilt that I would
yes,
cherish the ugly quilt. So,
absolutely. Yeah.
and you would never judge
Yes.
the ugly quilt. You would just love the quilt.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm sure I have given, well, I sent Mary a lot of these quilts that I had to move out of here for the new lodge. You,
I am so excited to open those
there may be
boxes.
a couple uglies in there. I don't know.
There might
But
be.
you'll be
There
happy to
might
have
be.
them.
Yeah. So, um, I have a friend that was working on a quilt at this last retreat, and I kept telling her, "That's a really stupid quilt. You should just leave it here.
Oh,
That's a really stupid quilt."
yeah, you got to. Okay, here's a caveat. If you go to Coosa Mountain and Mary says that, do not listen to her.
Come on now. Hey, what kind of friend are you?
I'm being a friend to anyone going to Coosa Mountain Lodge. Did she
Oh,
leave the
all right,
quilt?
fine.
Did
Pardon?
she leave the quilt? No. But
No,
how
she's
often do
wise to my
people leave
tactics.
you quilts or give you quilts?
Yeah, pretty often.
Okay.
Often. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
pretty
You have to be
often.
careful because I've said that to a few students. I'm like, oh my God, I love your project. I'll trade you. And they're like, okay. It's
What do you want?
like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. Well, then I
So,
feel bad. You just spent all this time working on it. So.
yeah. So I have quite a few quilts that people have given me, but I have to quilt them myself,
Mm,
which is totally fine.
mhm.
I'm totally happy to do
Yeah.
that. But I've fallen a little bit behind, so I've got to get going on
That's
some of
the
those because
pitfall of being a long armor. See,
yeah,
you get quilt
yeah,
tops, but when you're the quilt designer, nobody wants to give you a quilt. So it took me a long time to kind of put the feelers out that
yeah,
hey, especially now
yeah,
that it is my business and I don't just
yeah.
do that. But now, having said all of what we just said, I did just buy fabric for the very first time. You're a bad influence. I bought fabric for the very first time for a quilt for a gift for someone special. And I'm not going to say because
Nice.
they listen to the pod, but so now everybody that I know listens is like, oh, is it me?
It's me, isn't it? It's
but,
me, isn't
but it
it?
was also
You
one
bought
of
it
those
for me.
cases I walked in and I saw something and it was like, you need to buy me.
Yeah,
I do believe
yeah,
in gut instincts. And
yeah.
so, yes, now I have a quilt to make. So,
Well, good.
ay,
That's good.
not when you do them for business. I did 3 full
Yeah,
quilts at that retreat last week. I was exhausted. I was like,
nice.
dang it.
That's impressive. Good job.
Yeah. All right.
So,
Any others
um,
on this? We have one more,
yeah,
right?
yeah. So I had quick little story. I had just started quilting. Hadn't made very many quilts at all, and um, I made one and I gave it to my mom. She's a quilter, had been a quilter for several years already, and she put it over the back of the couch.
Mhm.
Did not let anybody touch it. You could not use this quilt. It was for display only.
Mm,
And anybody that would come and visit, she would make sure to tell them that her little Mary had made this quilt for her. And it was one of the first quilts that she ever made. And Mary never sewed when she was little. And now she's sewing and she made this quilt for me. And it stayed on the back of the couch for, probably, I guess, about 15 years.
wow.
And she had to go into a nursing home towards the end, and my sisters were helping her pack up. And they said, "What do you want to take?" And she said, "I want that quilt." So she made sure to take that with her. And then the last time I went to visit her, she said, "Take this back because I'm afraid of what will happen to it
Hmm.
when I, you know, when I pass. I want you to make sure that you have this." So she treasured that quilt,
Hmm.
and
And kept it with her till
I
the end.
believe
Yeah.
kept it with her till the end. And I believe that I mean, I may be wrong. My siblings can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think anybody else had ever made her a
because
quilt
she was a quilter.
because she was a quilter. She made quilts and gave them to everybody. Everybody in the family
Yeah,
has at least one, if not two or three quilts that she
yeah.
made. And that was the only one that somebody had made for her.
Wow.
And she just treasured it.
Yeah,
So give quilters
yeah,
quilts because they will treasure
yeah,
it. It means something to them.
yeah,
So,
yeah. And that's a good place to leave this. And I hope
mhm.
you guys have enjoyed our perspective on who gets quilts and who is quilt worthy. And in my heart, I think everybody can be quilt worthy. It's
Yes,
certain people, if
it's,
you only have so many years in your life, you only have so much money, and you're only going to make so many quilts, unless you're me, who
yeah.
makes a million quilts. You may have to be a little discriminating in who you give them to.
Mhm.
So let us know your
Yeah.
thoughts below on this. And let us
Yeah.
know what you're thinking of all the topics we're talking about. We have some really exciting ones coming up.
Yeah.
I have to say that this has truly inspired me to go back and look at my quilting life, my quilting career. We did one on burnout. For me, quilting is always gets to be a burnout because we design them and make them, and but this has really kind of brought that back into focus. That no, I really do enjoy sewing and I do enjoy quilting, and I love
Yeah.
teaching everybody, and I love talking to you every week. I mean,
I love
yeah,
it too. This has been great. I have learned so much already from you. I can't
same
wait
here.
to hit some of these other topics. So
Uh,
it's been very good for
so
me.
really good
So
idea, Mary. Thanks for thinking of
you're welcome.
it.
Thank you. And okay, so like, comment, share, subscribe,
Depending on where you're
do all
watching it,
those
we now have it up on Spotify, iTunes, and on both
and
YouTube for the Whimsical Workshop, which is my company, and Coosa Mountain Lodge, which is Mary's. So if you want to see our pretty faces, you can watch us on YouTube. If you just want to hear our super smooth voices, you can listen to us on the other two. So
yes. And if you have any extra quilts, send them to me.
yeah, yeah, I can. If people do, just instant direct message Mary, and she will help you
Yeah.
get those. I'm not even
I'll give
getting
them
in
a
the
good
middle of that one, but
yeah.
um,
I'm just
yeah.
teasing, sort of.
Well, I mean, it depends
So
on how prolific you are. I mean, you can. What I see going to all the guilds is that we can only make so many quilts for our friends and family, and then the guilds. I mean, they're some of the most giving, charitable things in the world because
absolutely.
people. I still want to make. I don't need
Yeah.
another bag, but I want to make another bag because we enjoy the
Correct.
experience. So people may be out there going, "Holy moly, I'm drowning in quilts," like I was, and I'm like, "Mary, you want a few quilts?" So.
Yes, yes, I do. All right. We'll leave it there for this week. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Bye, Heidi.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.